Hello, Joe Kearns here. Give you a little bit of insight on a problem I had with my Variax JTV59. I was having problems when I would be taking and using the 1/4" jack in here. The thing would just go dead. Nothing from the magnetic pickups, nothing from any of the presets or anything. And I could plug it in and unplug it and it would be fine for a couple days, a week or so. And I'm like, okay, this jack is just, there's something wrong with the jack. Called in and found out the best place was 3 hours away for a service center. So I decided I'd look on and see that I could get the parts, and I noticed that when you ordered the part, it was this whole assembly. You couldn't do just the jack. Well, I guess you could, but it's kind of hard. It's just more work than this. So I said, okay, I'm going to replace the jack. And so I took it apart, not all the way. I just took the covers off. And in that, what you're seeing, this is my replacement I put in here. Now, but what I was noticing is this. Let me get in there with. There we go. I could touch right here, and that disconnection problem would go away for a while. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to wait, and before I do my replacement a little while. In the meantime, when I was waiting for that, I had bought that piece. Hadn't thought anything of it again because I had bought a pod and I was doing all my recording and the connection, in here and powering it. So it wasn't until the past few weeks I was going to do some recording with some of the acoustic sounds and some comparisons to basically how the acoustic presets in here and models sounded compared to other real acoustic guitars. And I didn't want the pod being part of the chain when I was doing this comparison. So I got to thinking, yeah, well, if I'm gonna do this, I can't be frustrated with this sound going back and forth and connecting and disconnecting. So I went to replace it. So I got in there and I looked. And the first thing was, okay, I'm just going to loosen up the screws here, screws there, and I'll pull off and I'll disconnect. Well, here's the thing. These, let me put it down there. These white 3 connectors are not connectors. They're actually the wires are just soldered in. And these are used as strain relief. And here's the kicker. This one, look at this. They've only got one wire on one side there so it can move. Now in the guitar it's all stable. So in one sense, no, it's not a problem. But these things look like connectors. So I was thinking the impression I'd just disconnect, put my new board in, and we'll see if my problem's on the board. And then if I go, and then if it's still there, then I'll replace this cable. Well, like I said, they're not connectors, they're soldered in. The wires are just for strain relief. So what you got to do is you got to follow the connector, these black connectors, and they actually go over to this board all the way over on the other side, which is the computer and all that stuff. And you got your pickup wires that come into here. And you can't just, I was going to fish through the wires through this here, through the thing, and I found out, no, you can't do it. You got to loosen up the battery. And what's even more, and this is, I can't stress enough, guys, if you are not familiar with working on electronics, you may want to have this take it into somebody that does know what they're doing on this, or take it into find a service shop that for Variax. This board has that computer on, and probably has some static sensitive components. To make this change, you actually have to take out the screws and lift that board up enough to get this connector from this side of the guitar to the other side there and plug it in. And so if you don't know how to work with static protection and discharge yourself, you're liable to blow up the whole guitar. But anyway, that is the deal there. I actually had to take it apart and I put it in, and put it in. There's you can see where there's gray zip ties. Those were red. I don't know if they were red by design or what, but all I had was thing. But you also have to cut those two zip ties apart. You got to disconnect the ground wire over here, which all the grounds. That's another thing I'm not sure about. Normally when you open up a guitar, they have got foil for the ground throughout the thing. Everything is grounded to this point right here, all the components, which is good because it's a single ground point, but I'm used to seeing the foil in through there, so that was taken aback by that. Seems to work fine. It's just not what I'm normally used to seeing in a lot of guitars. Last thing, and you won't be able to see it on the board. You won't be able to see it on the board here from this angle. But back to this piece here. I didn't like that being that loose. So what I did was I grabbed out of one of my old project boxes just an old piece of wire that had a pin in it. And you can see I just kind of cut it off and I stuck it in through here and soldered it to the board. Once again, if you don't know how to solder, if you're not used to, don't do this. Take it to somebody. But because you can really, if you're not watching what you're doing, you can ruin the guitar. And from what I can see, and if anybody knows, I don't think you can get a replacement board for this. The rest of this stuff, components and stuff, you can buy replacements. But you can't, as far as I know, you can't buy that board. If anybody knows, please put that in a link of where you can get it, because I would really love to build some other guitars similar using the internal transplant like everyone's posted on the page before, posted out there. But anyway, the other reason I decided is this way, there's always a temptation for people to open up the guitar and they don't really know what's behind there and they don't know what they're doing. So here's the look of what what you are going to be challenged with if you have to work on this guitar. Overall, it's not bad. I do like the modular design. The only thing I didn't like was having to remove this board to get those cables through. Removing the battery section, that's not hard. It's it's pretty good, and if you're careful, and just if you do that, zip tie those wires back. They keep them from getting up against anything. I don't think there's any issue with what they did, but it does make it neater. And that's pretty much it.